you waste hours or you waste days or you waste 6 months or years, you are completely screwed and there's no chance it's going to work. It's hard and it's uncomfortable. So possibly the least sexy thing in business that has the highest ROI is and it's not even close.
What would you say is the number one mindset shift that's allowed you to scale to over 200K a month?
It sounds cringe, but it's just volume. It actually is. Like, I think something that people get really caught up in is that they just don't understand that if you want to make 10 times more money, it's 100 times more work to access that amount of money. Like it's an indirect exponential increase in the amount of work you have to do to get that amount of money, which is like the most cringe thing. And I hate hearing that when people say that. And even when it gets proven to me, even when someone shows me directly how much work is required to get a certain result, I still just go, oh, fuck. I have to work that much? Like, fine. Whatever. Like, fine. I have to work that much? That is what it is. I think you get the epiphany of how much you have to work over and over again in different niches. So, for example, I was talking to a friend who's really good at Instagram. He's grown a lot on Instagram. And he was telling me how much it takes for one of his editors to edit one of his reels. And he said, one of my reels, a 60-second video, takes my edit 20 hours. What makes you think that you're going to get the same results as me when you spin up a video in 10 minutes and then post it with no edit, no nothing? Do you think you're that good? And I said, fuck, you got me. I have to do 100 times more work. And that is what it is. And that happens in different ways. So for example, another one of those was one time my cold emails weren't working that well. And I have a really good friend who sends like hundreds of thousands of cold emails a day. And I was like, what's not working? Like, this is stupid. Like, my cold email scripts are awesome. I'm really, really good at it. My lead list, I'm spending, a bunch of money on my lead list. Why isn't it working? And I book a call with him and he opens up his cold email campaigns and he's just like, look at my campaigns versus yours. My campaign is worse than yours stat-wise. So his efficiency was lower. His reply rate might have been 3 or 4%. I was looking at my reply rate that was 7 or 8%. And I was like, well, I'm better than you. I'm thinking I'm more skilled because I'm more efficient. But then he shows how many cold emails he's sent, and it was 100,000 per day for one account, for one client or one business that he was sending cold emails for. And he was like, if we're running the same offer and I get 3% reply rate, but I send 100,000 a day, that's 3,000 replies. You're sending 2,000 a day and getting an 8% reply rate. That's not even close. I'm getting more replies than you're sending emails. So I was just like, oh, I'm a dickhead. I need to send way more. I need to do a lot more work. I need to put a lot more effort into this system to make it work even close to the level that I want it to work. And it's not about skill. It's just about volume. So everyone says that. And like I said, even when I hear someone say it's just about volume, I'm like, fuck you. It can't just be about volume. That's the most cookie cutter answer. Everyone says that. I've heard that 1,000 times. Why is it just that? And you're almost frustrated with that as an answer. Almost because it's very, it kind of challenges you and challenges your beliefs to say it's actually not about skill. You don't need to get better. It's just that you aren't working hard enough. Because then you have to look in the mirror and say, I'm not going hard enough. And that's kind of an ego challenge. And I think that's why people don't like getting that answer or figuring that out, that they're actually just not working hard enough. But spoiler alert, you can dance around it as much as you want, but it is. And you can't dodge that. So it's like, pull your socks up and work or piss off. There's no real two ways about it. And that's honestly, as much as I hate to deliver that answer, that is what it is. It's that. So if you post one short, if you post one YouTube video, if you send 10 emails, do it 100,000 more times than you think. And it's not necessarily that, oh, you just need to do that much more work because that's going to lead to more results. It's actually that you get so much better, so much faster, and you learn so much more, so much faster when you do that amount of volume and also learn from it as well. So like we just, whenever I'm not doing enough now, after having those lessons, it's more like, okay, what do? They do that? Fuck, fine. Fine. I'll just have to do that much. It is what it is.
And what if like doing more volume doesn't really work?
If you're doing more volume and it's not working, it's because you need to get better. But here's the caveat. That doesn't mean you have to stop doing that same amount of volume. It's just that you're not doing enough learning. So if you do volume, the whole point of doing volume when you're not getting results is so you can learn what works. So if you just do volume where you're doing the same thing over and over and over again and it's not working, that should be like a wake-up call. Hey, it's not working. So if you've posted 100 YouTube videos and they all get less than 100 views, it's because your stuff sucks. And it's probably because you've posted the same thing over and over again and you don't have any feedback loop that says that thing wasn't good enough, I need to improve it. And you probably don't have anything that's built in that says I'm going to improve every video a little bit. Because if you're not improving at all and you're just producing the same thing over and over again, there's actually no point in doing anything. The whole point of doing volume is so you iterate and get better over time. That's what I would say. Like I see that a lot. Like people will post 50 YouTube videos. The thumbnail is the exact same. The positioning is the exact same. The hook is the exact same. The value is the exact same. Not literally, but like they're doing it the exact same way, and it's not getting results. And then they bring their head up and they're like, "What happened? Why is it not working?" And it's like you don't get to access getting better unless you actually get better. You don't just do the same thing. And the whole point of releasing it or posting the thing is so you can get the feedback from the market when they say, "This is good. I'm going to watch the whole thing. I'm going to like it. I'm going to comment." Versus, "I'm not going to do that." So you have to take the feedback and improve.
What would you say is like the highest leverage skill to learn as like a business owner?
A lot of people talk about sales, or they talk about copywriting, they talk about, X, Y, Z, but the highest leverage skill by an absolute mile is judgment and decision making. And I'll tell you why. You can learn pretty much anything pretty quickly. It takes about 10 hours to get, 70 to 80% of the way there. So if you want to learn sales, if you just did 10 to 20 hours of work on it really quickly, you entrench yourself in that skill, you can learn how to do it pretty quickly to a viable extent. It's not as if you have to go and spend years and years and years doing that thing. And that's just because information's so democratized. You can go on YouTube and literally access the best salesperson alive for 3 hours by just watching their videos. So you can learn that really quickly. But when you're thinking about judgment, judgment is basically the act of deciding what to do. And decision making is the act of deciding what to do. So deciding to allocate that time to learn sales is a much more important thing than the actual act of learning sales. So it's way, way, way more important that I choose the right direction and not waste time compared to getting better at sales is easy. But you can only get better at decision making by experience and kind of intuition and seeing the strategies of other people work out and play out in front of you, and then applying that to your own situation and just thinking, okay, based on my situation, the best thing that I could do to get to my goal is X, Y, and Z. Because, if you get that right, you learn the right thing and you do the right thing, tick, 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 you're going well. But if you get that wrong, you waste hours or you waste days or you waste 6 months or years, then you're fucked or then you're screwed.
How do you get really good at resource allocation, whether it's time or whether it's capital?
Yeah, that's why it's the best skill, and it's the most important skills, because it's really hard to get good at. Not many people have it, and it's really hard when you're constantly emotional when you're running a business or when you're doing anything. It's hard because it's not like you're happy-go-lucky the whole time. It's not like you're having the most fun every single day when you have to fire people and you have to talk to clients all the time and they might be unhappy or whatever. It's hard and it's uncomfortable. So when you're trying to make decisions in that environment, it's not only the act of making the decision, it's also not being emotional about the decision and doing things even if you don't want to do them because it's the best thing for the company. So there's kind of two things. There's like the act of tracking and making unemotional decisions and making data-driven decisions. And then there's number two, which is being able to look at data and say, okay, based on number, we need to do this. Which I think the second one is much easier, because when you're looking at a spreadsheet or you're looking at a page and it says, well, if I run a really detailed analysis, it's actually not that hard to figure out that if we double our closing rate from 10 to 20%, we're going to double our business. That's kind of like when you're looking at it all very objectively, it's like, well, how are we going to double our close rate? Well, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and you can make a plan. But when you have no tracking and when you have all your emotions tangled up in the whole thing, it's really, really hard, because you're just trying to guess and you're trying to, going off no tracking and using no numbers and just using gut feel is pretty much the same thing as trying to travel through space using a compass to try and figure out where you're going, and you're in space. So if you're looking at this compass that's fucking going in every other direction and you're going through space, AKA you are completely screwed and there's no chance it's going to work. Whereas, if you've got that tracking set up, it's like having Google Maps in your ear and you're driving. It's like, well, okay, close rate 10%, let's get that improved. We need to learn sales. We need to get better at sales. We need to recruit a sales manager.
So if tracking's so important, why don't most people do it?
So possibly the least sexy thing in business that has the highest ROI is tracking, and it's not even close. And the reason for that is because tracking's the thing that's going to tell you where to go, and it's going to tell you where to steer the ship. But it's really hard to get traction on YouTube saying you have to do this really boring thing that involves maths versus, hey, if you just say these 3 words, you're going to double your close rate and you can handle objections and you can be the Wolf of Wall Street and you can, this is going to happen. All of a sudden, your wife might love you a bit more. Like, that's what works on YouTube. If you go on YouTube and say, hey, yeah, you need to load up this spreadsheet template and, type in all these numbers, and you need to do it every day, and you need to try and convince your team to do it every day. And if we don't do it, X, Y, Z is going to happen. That's a much harder sell, not only to your team, not only to yourself to actually get yourself to do it, but also to get viewers to watch that and be like, hell yeah, I'm going to track. Let's go. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to do some tracking and some spreadsheet stuff. And it's just kind of that whole thing where Layla Hormozi will always be less famous than Alex Hormozi. Not just, for any other reason than she talks about boring stuff that actually gets you a lot of results. But you just got to hope that the real ones understand that tracking is really damn important. So one thing that you can immediately start tracking today is how many sales calls you're booking every single month. And what that allows you to do is essentially evaluate, if we post this many YouTube videos, we book this many calls. If we get this many views, we book this many calls. If we, spend this much on ads, we're going to book this many calls. If we do this many outreaches, et cetera, et cetera. And you can see the correlation between the actions that you take and the results that you get. And then another thing is close rate is another, you really should be tracking close rate or at least have some sort of rough idea of that. And the only way you can track close rate is by tracking your calls booked and then tracking customers closed, which I'm sure most people would have an idea of because, that's the money. So that's the good stuff. But really you want to see how many calls we're booking based on what behaviors, then those calls will lead to closes and those closes will lead to money. So it's not too far away from the money, but it does give you a really good indication of what are the inputs, what are the outputs.